My brother forgot to introduce me. I'm Neil's brother, and I don't need a name, I just go by Neil's brother. And my name's Ajit Ninan, and yeah, so tonight I wanted to talk about some really serious issues, and by no means do I mean this to be an event about talking negatively about women. And the way I want to phrase this is, rights are not pie. If somebody eats a little bit of the pie, there isn't only a little bit less left over. There's still the whole pie when it comes to rights. So people need to understand that when we say fathers' rights, or we're saying fatherlessness, we're talking about the issues that fathers are struggling with, right? So let me start with this. I think what would be interesting is for us to be able to take a poll every so often from the audience, and rather than having your hands up, point to your phones to this right now, and it'll take you to a website. Hopefully you got this up there. And if you want to see the website on the next slide, I actually have the link to the website. This is something new we're trying because we want to try it out for the debates coming up here soon. So we thought this will be a great experiment right now. All right, everybody on this? So I'm going to switch now. Once you take this picture, there's going to be a question that pops up when I pop up on the next slide. Are you guys ready? Here we go. All right. So the question is, what are Title 4D federal incentives? A, home ownership incentives. B, Medicare. Oh, awesome, you guys are voting fast. Excellent, keep voting, keep voting. Medicare IV reimbursements, probably for COVID. To remove the father from the household. College tuition reimbursements. Well, it looks like you came to a fatherless conference, so people are getting the answer right. So the question is, what is it? Either you came to the Larry Elder conference and I explained a little bit about this to you. So let's get into what it is, right? So the father absence crisis in America is real, and Larry Elder said it best the other day when he was on. It's like, what is the #1 issue in America today? It's not CRT, it's not any of these things. It's fatherlessness in America, and it's the cause of all our problems. Did you know that 1 in 4 kids have no father, including a step or adopted father, and 1 in 3 no biological father? That's literally like this whole section has no father in the house. That's pretty crazy, right? And it is the cause of all our societal ills in America today, right? It's the father factor, right? So what does father absence mean? It means there's going to be poverty, there's going to be behavioral problems, teen pregnancy, more chance of going to prison, abuse and neglect, more likely to commit crime, dropping out of high school, and drugs and alcohol. So if you don't think this is our problem, well, let's keep going. So where is dad? So that's the first question. It's like, why are there so few dads in the world? It's like, oh yeah, deadbeat dad, he's not around, you know, never wanted to be around. Well, that's false. Now you'll learn why that's false. So let's talk about what the court system looked like. In America, families were strong until about the Depression time, where the father started to die and they were left only a mother and a child. It's funny because when I was doing, right before, speaking of Larry Elder, I put the slides backwards and the father came back alive. And there's only one father I know who came back alive, and I hope you know him. When Reagan said the worst words you could ever hear is, "I'm from the government and I've come to help." And that's exactly what the federal government said. I'm coming here to help you, and I'm going to pour money into this problem. I'm going to give money to the kids and to the single mom, and he starts sending money to the states from the federal government. And then, you know, they suddenly realized that, hey, if dad is in the house, we don't get any money. So the wife would say, hey, I think you should just hide behind the couch, and when this auditor comes in, we keep getting the money. So that's basically what happened. Guess what? The government said, hey, I have the solution to fix this. We're going to get dads to pay up. And so they started child support. And so the child support started going to the state government. And guess what? The federal government started giving more money because you have to enforce these child support collection agencies. So you think that the government actually reduced its cost in doing this? Of course not. They just had to add more money to enforce those things. So not only are they getting money out to these fathers, to the single families, but they're also putting out money to enforce these orders, right? And of course, our state government gets fatter and fatter. And initially, it was just for the needy and the people who qualified for welfare. Well, their department started getting larger and larger, and they needed new customers because you can't manage. You have to have 4% raises every year, or whatever it is. And so the government never gets smaller; it always grows larger. So guess what? They need to find new customers. Where do they look? Hey, divorce industry. Hey, this is a great idea. We can make more money off of these people. Well, they need a reason to give the child to one parent so they can get the single parent thing and get the father paying and get all this money back flowing. So the woman has to say, he beat me. And guess what the state says? Yeah, I believe you. No evidence needed. He beat you. Guess what? They issue these things called ex parte DVROs, domestic violence restraining orders, and boom, they got you. And the dad can say, she's lying. They're like, we don't care because we're giving that kid to the mom. And after a while, the mom starts telling the kid that daddy doesn't like you, and the kid says, I hate you, dad, and this is called parent alienation syndrome. What I'm trying to do is to walk through these issues that we all face who are stuck in the system. So I'm going to put a few key terms over there, and that's kind of why I'm walking through this like it's a story. All right, so now we got the family, broken family there, and everybody's paying everybody, and guess what? The government's fat and happy. Right? Everybody's getting money, and not only did they do it for the welfare, they said, we've got to open this up because we've got to keep getting more money. So they opened it up to all economic brackets. Basically, Title 4D says anybody who applies, which is they force everybody to apply, and now they're all incentivized. And there are bonuses. Guess what? When they hit a certain threshold, the states that hit the thresholds get additional bonuses. So that's what Title 4D incentives are, and that's what that first slide was about, right? And guess what? Stepfathers are more likely to abuse those kids, and if you're ever wondering why they're burning and looting, it's because those kids have no families and they're being abused. Right? So, what does standard custody mean? Standard custody today means one parent gets only 4 days a month. How is that standard by anybody's? That's not 50-50 for sure, but they call that standard custody. So you'll hear people say, oh, standard custody. You'll be like, oh yeah, I guess that's good. No, that's not good because it's not 50-50. So why not legislate 50-50? Well, I gave you the whole answer as to why not 50-50, because everybody's making money off of this, right? Well, only if there's conflict in the house can they make money, and that's the way they do it. So let's follow the money here, because everybody needs a lawyer. So there's more than just the government that's incentivizing here. And the father has to pay not only the mother, he has to pay her lawyer, his lawyer, and what we call the guardian ad litem, which is the kids' lawyers. And you'll hear Robert talk about this. His kids have had lawyers since they were like 9 months old, right? So, and guess what? How do the judges make money? Well, re-election campaigns. Guess what? The same lawyers who sit in the courtroom can actually contribute to that judge's re-election campaign. Talk about conflict of interest. So if you're in court, you're going to get a divorce, make sure your lawyer has contributed to that judge's re-election campaign if you want to find favor. Wow. That's the game. And guess what? That judge can make even more money, and he needs to be nice to these lawyers. Why? Because he can do what's called private judging on the side. And he doesn't have to report any of this. So the lawyers can hire him as a private judge. No conflict of interest here. Look the other way, people. This is what's going on. And then the lawyers make this group called the Family Law Foundation, and they all pool their money together, and they give it to legislators, and those legislators, and they give it to judges as well. And guess what? All of us get together and say, this is absolutely wrong. We want to change the law. We want to make it 50-50 custody. And in Texas, they had a bill called House Bill 803. They went to the legislators, and guess who stopped it? Those legislators who were being paid by the Family Law Foundation. Of course they're not going to let it through. Lobbyists. Lobbyists, exactly, right? So there goes, all those things. And guess what? A lot of these guys have immunity. We're trying to challenge that, and Mark told me that we're going to go after those guys. And so this is what's the problem, is that it's insane. not only the lawyers there, but you have CPAs, psychologists, realtors, quadros, everybody in the world who is court approved. You can't just bring your own CPA, you gotta get the court approved. So there's obviously all sorts of back dealings going on over there between the lawyers and everybody. It's just like one pocket feeding the other pocket. The money's just flowing around, right? And all of this is, guess what? $60 billion industry. $60 billion in this industry. So you got to take this down. You need to have something that's on the order of $1 billion to take them over. Eric believes that we can do it with less, but we're going to try and fight this thing. So here we go. We got a dad. He's working his butt off to get some money. Look at that arrow; it's much smaller than the amount of money that he's paying off. And the judge said to me, "He's like, yes, it's not uncommon for somebody who's making as much money as you to be paying out more than you're making. It's just what your obligation is." Right? And guess what happens to these people who are poor? They run out of money because they don't have any savings, and eventually their loss is they can throw them in prison. They can seize your driver's license. What in the world? If you don't have a driver's license, how are you going to make money? And they can throw you in prison. And that support money doesn't stop. It keeps increasing while you're in prison. How are you going to work and pay? That doesn't make any sense. So that money keeps increasing to get out, and guess what? You can't claim bankruptcy when your child support cannot be wiped out. It's like student loan debt. You can't wipe it out, right? And they get out of jail, they've got more debt. They try to work it off, can't pay it, they get thrown back into prison. On and on it goes. You're wondering what all those people in jail are doing? They're not all criminals. The dads who can't make those payments, right? And that's called debtor's prison. Las Vegas hires 300 government workers to seize driver's licenses and throw dads in prison. That's your tax money going to pay those guys, right? All right, so stuck in the system. What are we doing? The dad has no choice. And 18,000 men every year in America kill themselves due to divorce issues. Where's the dad? He's either dead or he's not allowed in the child's life. So, if you are one of these people in this situation, you really need help. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I felt so helpless. And lucky for me, I have some savings, but even though I'm paying more than I make, it's still very depressing every day. Right? You can't get out of this hole that you're in. So please ask for help, and definitely there are counselors everywhere. And most counselors are not trained in this, so one of the things that I want to do is actually start a meeting with counselors to teach them about this, so that they can counsel men in the right way, so that they can handle this. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm Neil's brother. I come from a very strong family. I was born in Africa, in Sudan, lived in India, and sure, Neil has told you our story about my dad. He's a physics professor, super smart. He's the guy who has all credit for all of us in our family over here, who has given us this critical thinking capability. And our family, of course, read Neil's book. It talks about how we escaped out of Yemen because my dad gave a Bible to his coworker, and they threatened to kill us, and we had to get out of there. But it was a blessing in disguise because that's how Neil got to America. So the American ambassador, the attaché, basically helped Neil to get into this country. Of course, we've faced civil wars. One thing I like to say is every country that we've been to has been split in two due to civil war. So let's hope America does. All right, so I was the good kid, right? Like everybody in my family, I saved sex for marriage. I did not believe in premarital sex. I never got drunk before I was divorced. I played guitar in a Christian rock band, and I have 2 amazing kids. That's me, right? And who am I besides that? My professional career? Well, I'm the guy who invented the quantum dot LED TV. I took the quantum dot, I took a TV and smashed it together. That was just that simple. And we made the quantum dot LED TV. And I'm a vice president of a public company. I don't want to say my company's name because I don't know if they'll approve of this. I have over 400 patents, and all the technologies in HDR, JPEG images, the pictures that you take on your phone every day. I've been involved in the standards committees on that. And we won an award from Hollywood for content creation recently called the Lumiere Award, which is for creating a device that allows you to make better content. And of course, the display industry is giving me awards for all sorts of things. And of course, I get to hang out with really cool people. That's James Cameron, the guy who made Titanic. So it's a great job, and I'm not some wacko. I get to meet lots of people, and when I'm talking about my stuff, it's not just coming from a place of anger. It's coming from a place from reason. And the most important achievement in my life is I'm dad. And I had it as father, and Mark was like, "No, you're dad. Anyone can father, only few can be dad." All right, so what's my story? Well, I came to America in the 90s. I played in this band, and I was part of a group of guys from Stanford doing startups. And then I met her parents, and they absolutely hated me. I don't know why. They probably had never seen a brown person before me, is my guess. And 2001, I ignored all the signs that family is important. I figured that she loves me, so I'll just marry her. We got married in 2001 in Pebble Beach, and we tried to have kids. We had 5 miscarriages in 2016. Today, I had the most amazing daughter. My older daughter is incredible. And 2007, 1 year right after that, is when she attempted what's called the first silver bullet, the silver bullet basically, which is accusing me of abuse. And I'll get into that. She emptied the bank account, she left the house, and then she decided she wanted to come back. And when I went to the Christian Counseling Center, she started telling the story about why she left. And one of the things was her mom told her that they were going to hire a lawyer to come after me. And basically what they said, that they orchestrated the whole thing. And she wrote this letter to the court, and she started speaking at multiple events. And this letter she gave to my sister-in-law, Anna, Neil's wife, and she notarized it. And that's how my domestic violence charge was dismissed against me. And yes, and she gave it to my sister-in-law. And in the letter she says, I would probably get custody of our child, but Ajit would have visitation every other weekend. This is the lawyer telling her. And I wouldn't be able to move out of state. Her goal was to move out of state. She said, I don't have anything to work with, so you need to push his buttons. She suggested pushing his buttons whenever the chance arose. And she continued, she asked what the buttons were. She said, he doesn't like it when some people say negative things about his mom. She said, go for that and call her a bad word right there. I left her office, this is her saying, I left her office deciding that I would try to provoke Ajit to make him angry at me. I thought that would bring the best legal options for me and my daughter. And she continues, she says, Ajit wants to spend time with her. He wanted to take her to the doctor, but I refused because the lawyer said it would look bad for me if he was with the kid. So, and then she said basically, hey, I'm outside the house, and he didn't do anything. We can't get this guy to do anything. She literally was like pouring ice on me in the mornings and pushing me and just provoking me. And of course, I would never ever touch her. Never ever touched her at all. Not a single, like literally she poured ice on me in the shower. That's, to me, that's violence against me, but us guys, we take that, right? And then eventually she said, we went to marriage, I didn't listen to my mom, I came back, and then we went to marriage family counseling. I wish more people would do that. And instead of falling into the hands of family lawyers, and she goes into like there was never any domestic violence charges, and I wish that somebody had told me about this. And this all happened at the direction of my legal counsel in an attempt to make a case that would allow me to take my kid out of state. Right? And she says that he isn't a violent person, he's always a loving father, he's present at all in her appointments, he reads her books, changes her diapers, feeds her when she's hungry, and besides that, when he comes home, she screams, Daddy, Daddy, and runs to him. That is very clear evidence that he's not an abusive father. So let's go back to this timeline, and basically, not sure what that was, but okay. Basically, it doesn't stop there. Because obviously I'm here, I'm divorced. My second amazing girl is born, and then one day she says, oh, the kids have the flu, I'm going to sleep in a separate room. And then I got sick, and then she said, I'm going to just keep sleeping over here. And a month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, and she refused to She wanted to sleep in that separate room. It's the problem with having a big house. You don't want to have extra rooms, right? And then this is when she pulled the second silver bullet. She kicked me out of the house. I was at work, and I have one of my coworkers here. We were at work, and literally my assistant comes up to me and says, there's this guy who says he has to talk to you. I'm like, sure, I'll go out there. And he hands me the papers. He's like, this is a domestic violence charge. You've been abusive to your kids, and you've been abusive to your wife. You cannot get within 300 feet of them or anywhere of the house. You cannot talk to them, you cannot text her, you cannot do anything. And foolishly, I text her one line, and I was like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And of course, they use that against me in court, so never do that. And the guy who helped her, his name is Mr. Healy. He's a science teacher from one of the churches over here. And she was a teacher at that same church. And he spends the night, and the last thing I see on my security cameras is this guy pulling down my cameras. And it was just, my heart sank. I call it the 40 days of hell. I was kicked out of my house, and I stayed at my nephew's house. This is the same nephew that I was changing his diapers, and now he was taking care of me. It was super awesome. And then after that, I went to stay at a friend's house, in their wonderful house that they like literally rent out for $400 a night. They let me just stay there for free. And I was a mess. I mean, I couldn't even think straight. I had to take anti-anxiety pills every day just to function. I couldn't look at anything. I couldn't focus on anything. My whole world was crashing around me. It's just way hard to talk about. It's like I have PTSD every time I have to think about it. They accused me of like abusing the kids, and I had to meet with CPS for multiple days, and they wouldn't let me see the kids or talk to them. And I had to, finally after 14 days, I got into the court, and the judge says, we're going to make this DVR stick until we have a hearing. And I said, well, can I see my kids at least? He was like, well, I will let you do phone calls. And then finally he says, if you want, you can meet with the kids during the counseling session. So I go to try to find the counselor, and the counselor would not meet with me. He's like, no, you're not allowed to be here. I don't want to know. I have an order from the judge. Nope, don't care. Don't want to see it. Right? And it was insane. It was just, and every step, every day, I was just like trying to find a way just to see my kids. Right? And the sheriff is investigating me and my brother. Everybody is like being investigated. It was insane. And so they finally had an emergency hearing at the end of all of these 40 days. And the emergency screener, they kept the kids away from me to the point that her parents were there. They were trying to keep the kids' heads turned away from me so they wouldn't even see me. They wouldn't look at me. And the second, it was actually a mistake, because when we walked into that room with the double mirror, the kids ran to me and they just stuck to me and they wouldn't let go. And they're like, Daddy, Daddy, where were you? I can't tell you how, like, immediately, like, all my anxiety dropped when they were like holding on to me. And you know, what is abuse is my daughter saying, Daddy, why didn't you call? We waited every day for a call. I thought maybe you didn't like us anymore. The screener even testified saying that she's coaching the kids, and they said, the kids were saying, Mom said to call Dad a predator. And then they said, they didn't train her well enough, because they said, what do you think a predator is? She's like, well, I don't know. It's something from, I watched that movie Zootopia, and they said that there's an animal eats another animal. What's that have to do with Dad? I don't get it. Immediately they were like, there's something wrong here, right? So I'm one of the lucky guys who got the evidence was right through. I had so much evidence that everybody started coming to my aid, because she was speaking at events, and all these people started saying, hey, I attended an event, and she shared her story, and she talked about the false accusations and the abuse, and she knew what she had done was wrong. And then the other person was like, she talked about how the lawyer said to push her buttons, and all of this, it just kept going and going. And all these people just came to my rescue saying, yes, this is it. Some people just didn't want to get involved. They're like, yeah, that's not my problem. It was really sad. So, you know, we had warned, you know, we finally got custody. I go to the church, and the church refuses, from school, refuses to let me get the kids. The HR person over there says, no, I don't believe this charge. You know what's interesting about judges' orders? They can say, oh, we're not going to honor this, and then you call the police to exercise it, and guess what the police say? Oh, it's a civil matter, you got to go back to court, and then it's another 40 days. I got lucky that the kids weren't in school that day, and so I went to her, so if she wasn't giving me the kids, then we can find contempt against her. So luckily, the school was trying to come after me, right? So I ended up with having to pay 50-50 custody, and you know, it never ends. You think that, okay, hey, I got the kids. Nope. The school, and she started using the school to harass me every day, and one of the pastors actually quit, because he's like, you know, I'm done. I go to these meetings, I hear this principal and all these people talking negatively about him, and the elder board refuses to get involved, and they were always like, they wouldn't even let me meet with the teachers one-on-one. How am I supposed to take care of my kids' education based off of that? So he literally says, I cannot continue to work in a place that shows this much bias against one of our members of the congregation. I was part of a church, right? So it continues forever. It seems like it goes on and on. You know, I'll try and, you know, I'm not sure why this is jumping back and forth, but let me cut the chase to, yeah, so one more other thing. Guess what? The guy who helped her, who took down my cameras, well, he was hugging my daughter inappropriately, and my girlfriend actually, who I finally met, an amazing woman. She's back there married, and so she said, hey, I feel uncomfortable about the way this teacher is hugging your daughter. I'm going to write a letter. She wrote a letter, and guess what? That teacher, turns out, they did nothing. That teacher, turns out that he was a child molester. He molested 2 kids, and he had child porn all over his machines. He was a teacher over there. He was arrested for that. And everything we said was basically true, right? So she quits her job, and now has to still pay for all of this, right? So it never ends. So in summary, basically, I almost paid over $1 million in legal fees. I paid her millions of dollars to buy her out, and still have to pay 50-50. We have 50-50 custody. I still have to pay her a ton of money. There was never any abuse. I've never ever touched kids. They attested that. Anyone will. I've never even spanked my kids, right? So let's clarify something. Domestic violence is not okay. We're never saying domestic violence is okay. So absent fathers do have an obligation. You know, women are affected in many cases, and liars and codes should be prosecuted. So with that, you know, I really want to introduce the star of this place, is basically this team right here. These guys are working tirelessly. I don't think I ever see these guys sleep. They're working so hard for us. So I want to introduce Eric. He was from Georgia, pastor son. Started this dad talk specifically to fight for this, and you'll hear his story.